And now on the show, we're going to take a look at a film that kind of samples a lot of the different genres. The film is Abigail, and it's mostly horror, but it also touches on comedy, crime, and thriller as well. Now, it's directed by Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillett, who most horror fans will know have been responsible for a few horror films over the years, including the more recent Scream films. Now, as a horror fan, you will realise that there's something a little bit different about Abigail from the get-go. This film begins like you've been placed among the villains in a Taken-style crime thriller. As an audience, you're suddenly placed alongside a team of kidnappers that are made up of the vicious Frank, played by Dan Stevens, the caring Jody, played by Melissa Barrera, the gunman Rickles, played by William Catlett, the tech-savvy Sammy, played by Catherine Newton, the dumb muscle-bound Peter, played by Kevin Durand, and the wheelman Dean, played by the sadly departed Angus Cloud, who died unfortunately before this film was quite completed, so he didn't get to see it completed. Now, they're all tasked with the kidnapping of young ballerina Abigail, played by Alicia Weir. Now, if you're quick-witted, and you might have picked that the names of all of those villains share the names of the infamous Rat Pack. That comes from the mastermind of this Operation Lambert, played by Giancarlo Esposito, who calls them his rats and has promised them $7 million each if they can hold on to Abigail for 24 hours. Now, at first the plan seems like it's going to be pretty easy, but they soon realise that perhaps they've bitten off, pun intended, more than that they can chew, because they work out that Abigail's father, played by Matthew Good, is a deadly crime boss that is believed to use vampires and other supernatural beings to do his dirty work. Lee, what did you make of Abigail?
Well, I think it's really interesting because the kidnappers become the kidnapped, and you find out bit by bit why each person involved has been, I guess, chosen to become a kidnapper and then be kidnapped. Why it was that they were chosen. I kind of like the feel. It had a kind of haunted house feel with the big mansion. So I really liked that.
And it felt like the mansion that the two directors had in their other movie, You're Next, as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so,
Sorry, Ready or Not, not You're Next, Ready or Not.
You really feel like you can feel how trapped each person would feel, with the house becoming locked up to an extent that they just can't escape. You felt all that. I also, I quite liked the way that Abigail was fixated on ballet. That just brought something different to the character, to the story. And I thought that Alicia Weir, who plays Abigail, did an amazing job of being, human in some scenes and transforming to vampire in others. For a 14-year-old girl in real life, I thought she pulled that character off so well. So that just shows the kind of talent she has, and I think she will have a huge future ahead of her as an actress. Now, the other character or person that really drew me into the story, and I really actually cared about them, was Joey, played by Melissa Barrera. I was really just encapsulated by their story, and I really wanted them to survive, even though there was a very slim chance that that would even be possible. There was some background family storyline for her, and then she just seemed to have the most knowledge of how to deal with Abigail. Now, of course, it was a struggle through the whole storyline whether she'll survive or die. So I'm not going to spoil that because, you can tell when you start watching it, there's a very slim chance anyone will survive. Now, this was quite gory in parts. I'm not the biggest fan of gore, blood and guts going absolutely everywhere, but there are a few scenes of that happening. So if you're not a gore fan, just be prepared for that. I will say, though, that that the rest of the story kind of makes, if you can just close your eyes and not watch that bit for a few seconds, the rest of the story is kind of worth it if you like thrillers and horrors and if you like vampire stories. I will say that. There was so much going on. You've got the gangster storyline kind of in the background.
Yeah.
As well.
Now I want someone to actually make a series where the crime family are vampires.
Yeah. And I'll have to say, some of these characters just weren't likeable. And, that's how it's meant to be. You're not meant to like them. But from the get-go, you're kind of I didn't trust Frank. I didn't really like the character of Frank. I thought there's something off about Frank. So you've got that bit of intrigue of trying to figure out the characters. What's this character about? Or are they kind of revealing who they really are, or are they hiding something? And so you had that with a number of characters as well, just trying to figure out, are they who they say they are, or are they not? Because at the start, they're not meant to share their real name. They're not supposed to share their backgrounds, and that's really all a setup so that, number one, if you were a kidnapper, you wouldn't be leaving evidence behind for other people to accidentally spill later on. But then number two, it's also a way to divide and split people when they, instead of being kidnappers, are the kidnapped. So there's so much going on in the story, but it all comes together really well. And then, you have the ballet music playing over the top of things at times, and something's about to happen. For a vampire movie, I thought it was well done. It was a little different to other things that we've seen, because, you kind of get into the pattern and rhythm of those movies at times, and so it was just nice to have a different kind of creativity about this movie that's maybe not in other vampire movies.
Yeah, I did enjoy this movie, but I wonder if it's going to struggle to attract an audience, because if you're the kind of person that likes horror comedy, and I'm thinking of movies like A Vampire in Brooklyn and stuff like that, you don't like gore traditionally.
That's me.
Yeah, if you're someone who likes gore in a movie, like if you're a Saw fan or a fan of a movie like Green Inferno or something like that, then you generally don't like comedy in your film. And again, if you're a serious vampire film fan that likes things like Queen of the Damned, what's the one a few years ago with the little girl vampire, the one Chloe Grace Moretz was in, Let the Right One In.
Right One In, yeah.
Then you're not going to like comedy in your film. So I kind of wonder whether this film is going to struggle for an audience. I kind of get a feeling it's going to be one of those movies where if you go to see it in a group, 50% are going to love it and 50% are going to not like it because of the way that it is, on both sides of it. To their credit, though, there were some things about this that I thought really, really worked. Although I'm not always a big fan of comedy and horror unless it's an outrageous one like Scary Movie or something like that, I did find that the comedy in this worked. The screenwriters, Stephen Shields and Guy Bustick, actually did get the comedy to work really well. And I love the character of Peter, the big dumb fool in this film. His dumbness kind of is the butt of a lot of jokes in this, and those jokes do actually work. The other thing I did like about this film was you were kind of constantly on the edge of your seat after it's revealed that Abigail is a vampire. But having said that, I still feel that vampire movies like Blood Vessel and The Last Voyage of the Demeter actually did the whole vampire in a claustrophobic setting, one can't escape from suspense a little bit better. Like, this one I did feel that suspense, but like you mentioned in your review, the appearance of Abigail was quite often forewarned by the music, whereas with The Last Voyage of the Demeter and also Blood Vessel, they're both set on ships with vampires. I think one's a submarine maybe, or no, it was a ship as well. But there was no forewarning. Suddenly the vampire would be right there in front of him, and I think that in a way works a little bit better. But also credit to the screenwriters, they didn't do that stupid traditional jump scare cat jumping out of a box or something to trick the audience as well. So they didn't do that, which I thought was quite well done as well. But look, I thought the characters did work well. Having the characters so different from each other kind of made you either love or hate a character. So I did like that aspect of it as well. I'm like you though, I really do think that this is the film that basically shows that the young actress Alicia Weir is going to become a very, very big actress in Hollywood. She's going to be an absolute star. I thought Kevin Durand did steal a lot of his scenes though, where he's playing the big dumb muscle man. Thought he did that really, really well. So look, it's an enjoyable film. It's probably not one that I would rank up there as like a top horror film, but I thought it was pretty serviceable. Lee, what are you going to give Abigail out of 5 and why?
I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. I actually don't think that the preview or the film clip...
The trailer, no.
The trailer, it doesn't really give it justice to what it's like. It gives a glimpse, but it was a whole lot better than the trailer, I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, the trailer almost made me feel like this was a movie that I didn't want to see. Like, it played up the comedy aspect of it so much that I was kind of like, I'm not sure that I want to see this. I mean, I'm going to give it 3.5 out of 5, though. I did generally enjoy it, but I find that interesting with trailers. Like, you get a trailer like the Civil War trailer, where that made me want to watch that movie. Like, I was counting down the days until it came out, whereas one like this, I was kind of like, if I wasn't reviewing it, this is probably a movie that I wouldn't have gone along to see simply because of the trailer, which I don't think did it justice at all. So, Abigail is a general release, so make sure you check your local cinema guide to see where it's showing near you. Lee gave it 3 stars and I gave it 3.5.